Well, it's that time of year again, the end of the year, where I count down my top favorite mobile filmmaking tech of the year. I've done this the last 3 years, and yeah, I wanted to continue the tradition. I often do this on my main YouTube channel, on the iPhoneographers channel. But this year, I wanted to really concentrate more on my podcast, and that's what this episode is. That's what we're doing today, talking my favorite mobile tech of 2021. Hey guys, Blake Calhoun, and another episode of Almost Professional, the podcast about mobile filmmaking, DIY filmmaking, indie filmmaking, really all things filmmaking. And today, yes, my top 10 list of my favorite things from 2021, specifically mobile video, mobile filmmaking tech, audio as well. Audio actually ranks pretty high in my list this year. Before I get started though, if you're watching this on YouTube, yep, another camera experiment. This time I'm using the new Sony, what is that? The I forget the name of it, ZV-E1 or something like that. It's basically a vlogging camera from Sony that has an APS-C sensor, just like the A6400, Super 35, but it's a smaller package, very compact camera. And so I'm giving it a try. Last episode, I used my Insta360X. Before that, I used my iPhone in cinematic mode, and then I've also used my Osmo Action quite a bit, just mixing it up. And here we go, my number 10 favorite thing. And by the way, I'm not saying these are the best, I'm saying they're my favorite. And one of my criteria this year was stuff that I actually use and makes my life easier as a filmmaker, as a YouTuber. And so in saying that, number 10 is an LED light. The Arisa 2, and I'm probably hacking that name. This is a tube light, and I really like this light. It reminds me of a Nan light or the other type lights in this category, but this one is really robust and it's fairly affordable. It's like $150-ish, maybe less dollars. And for what you get, it is a really good deal. Comparable lights, I think, like this can cost twice that much or even more. And for whatever reason, lighting videos on my YouTube channel don't do that well. And so I don't think a lot of you guys saw the review I did of this light. But man, it's great and I use it all the time. And of course, it works with mobile filmmaking or traditional filmmaking, as a lot of the stuff I'm going to cover in this list does. Number 9 is Cinematch from Film Convert. If you haven't used Cinematch, and again, this works with traditional cameras and mobile, and they've been really good to Film It Pro. So you can use Cinematch with Log V3, 10-bit Log V3 shooting on the iPhone 12 or 13 and convert it to ARRI and get really amazing results. I mean, surprisingly good results. I did a video about this last year and I love using this technique for grading log. If you're not using LUTs, although this does work like a LUT, and in many respects, it does a better job because the way Film Convert dials in the specific look for specific cameras. And so if you haven't checked out Film Convert Cinematch, I highly recommend it. And again, it works with mobile or traditional cameras. And really, it's a one-time cost. It's not a subscription. And I find I use it all the time. And by the way, everything I'm mentioning here, I'll have links in the description of this video, and whether that goes to the videos I did or to the direct product links. My number 8 favorite is the venerable Rode Wireless Go 2. I love the original Rode Wireless Go system, and version 2 really upped the game. The biggest thing it did is you can now record into the actual device, and so it becomes a quasi-field recorder, which just really makes it very versatile. Not only is it affordable, but now you can record into it, and of course you can use one receiver and go to 2 transmitters, and so that's huge. It's really a no-brainer to pick one of these up if you're a indie filmmaker or a YouTube creator doing corporate video, interviews, what have you. I really like the Rode Wireless Go systems. Number 7 here is one that, again, didn't do well on my channel. I did a video about this, and that is the Freewell Magnetic ND filter. I get it. Variable ND filters in general, are kind of boring, especially if you don't really know what they do. but they are so important. And in particular with mobile video, but even traditional video and filmmaking, especially in cinema type setups, but really for all cameras, unless you have built-in ND, which a lot of higher end cameras have, having an ND filter is imperative. Without it, you get stuttery looking footage like it's a zombie apocalypse or something. ND filter really just ups the game for smartphone video in particular, because when people say, hey, my video looks like smartphone video, what they're typically saying is that it doesn't have good motion blur. And so adding an ND like this one from Freewell, which again is magnetic, so it's so easy to connect to your camera and change, whether again that's a traditional camera or a smartphone. This filter is one I use all the time and is really, I hate to use the word game changer, but it's just made it so easy to put it on and off your camera instead of screwing it on and off. It's great. So I recommend checking it out, the Freewell Magnetic VND filter. Number 6, and this was a really big deal and still is a big deal, and I don't actually think it's gotten enough coverage, in my humble opinion, and that is the ability to edit on an SSD using your iPad with LumaFusion. Forever, that was my biggest deterrence from using LumaFusion and my iPad for editing in particular. Having to import all your footage into the iPad just sucked. It's just terrible having to do that. I personally use external drives for everything. And so using an SSD with your iPad to me is, I just said it previously, another really big game changer. And I just think we're just getting so close to where mobile technology, mobile tools are becoming hybrid tools in so many ways. I do think iPads, they're not replacing laptops yet, and they may never, but they're getting to the point where, depending on what you're doing, you can do so much with a tablet that you just carry with you on an airplane. And yeah, you can carry a laptop, I get it. And the new M1 Mac laptops are amazing, but for certain things, especially being super portable, the iPad is a great way to go. All right, number 5 is a gimbal, and it's actually 2 gimbals. It's a tie, in my opinion. The first one is the Hohem iSteady V2. The biggest thing about this gimbal for me is that it has an AI hardware sensor, so it's not the app that will track you, and that way, whatever app you're using will follow you. You don't have to use the gimbal app, and to me, that's huge. That means when using an app like Filmic Pro, if you want to track yourself, you can do it with this gimbal. Now, it's not perfect, and you have to be pretty close to the camera, but it's a great step forward, I think, in that technology, because truth be told, gimbals kind of bore me today. They're really ubiquitous, and it seems like half the people, including myself, that get a new gimbal, you don't use it that much. They sound great on paper, and they are imperative for certain shots, especially for me making movies and such. I use them in the place of a Steadicam often, but for everyday kind of things, YouTube, etc., having this tracking is really cool. And I said this was a tie category. That's because the other gimbal that I really liked this year, and it kind of came out of left field for me, was the Xiaomi Smooth 5. The Smooth 4 was one of my favorite gimbals forever, but the problem with that one is it was designed for smaller phones, and they hadn't updated it in quite a while. The Smooth 5 holds up to, I think, 300 grams, and so it is designed for this new world of max size, plus size phones. Now, I haven't reviewed this on my channel yet, although I have one, and so coming in 2022, I will be talking more about it. All right, number 4 is a camera cage, but it's for your iPhone. It's the SmallRig Cage for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I just got this maybe a month ago, maybe under that, and it has really changed the way I'm using my phone, partly because all the vendors out there, the third-party accessory makers like Moment and B-Script, etc., are all behind. It's almost the new year, and I don't have a Moment case, and so my Moment lenses, I cannot connect to my phone. But with this SmallRig Cage, you can. It has a Moment mount on there, and they also have a 17mm mount version as well. The cage is really solid, but it's still small. Doesn't make it feel overwhelming, and you can put side handles on it or not. I tend to like the side handles. And the other thing is, this is really affordable. I think it was under $50, and so I really like it. Now, I still want a Moment case, don't get me wrong, but I really like this SmallRig Cage and absolutely recommend it. All right, we're now to the top 3, and my number 3 choice is audio related, and that is the AI Micro from Rode. The SC6L was something I used quite a bit, If you don't know what these are, the AI Micro replaced the SC6L. It more or less allows you to plug in two microphones into your smartphone and have discrete channels instead of having mixed audio. It also has a headphone jack, so you can plug in headphones and monitor your audio. This doesn't seem like a big deal if you're not used to using smartphones, if you're used to using a traditional camera, but it's a big limiting factor on smartphones. And so using these has really allowed me to use my phone in more professional scenarios and to use it a lot more. And the other thing about the new AI Micro that I really like is the previous version, you had to have TRRS connectors, which go to mobile devices. With the AI Micro, you can have TRS or TRRS. It automatically converts it for you. So you don't have to worry about additional adapters or whatever. It's the one adapter and it works. It also has a really good preamp in it. So you're getting better audio quality into your device. I highly recommend the AI Micro. If you do any kind of video on your phone, professional video, family videos, you wouldn't need this. But if you do anything for YouTube or corporate video or whatever, this is an accessory that I highly recommend, and it has made my life a whole lot easier and allowed me to use my iPhone in a lot more of my professional productions. Number 2, and this probably won't surprise many people if you watch my channel a lot, and that is my iPhoneographer's channel. Number 2 is ProRes video recording on the iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max. I have the Pro Max, the 1 terabyte version. Now, some people have poo-pooed this a little bit. I don't really get it. I mean, the idea that you can now shoot ProRes on a smartphone and, something you carry in the palm of your hand, to me is, it was a dream of mine a couple years ago, but I didn't think, it was a dream. I didn't think it would come to reality, come to fruition. It has. Now, is it like shooting ProRes on a Blackmagic camera or using an Atomos monitor? No, it's not. You're still recording with a small sensor phone. However, it is much improved over HEVC. You'll hear people out there say it's not improved. They are wrong, okay? I'm not going to name any names, but some pretty high-profile filmmakers continue to say that ProRes is not better than HEVC. It is. Do you have to pixel peep in some instances to see the difference? Yeah, but that's kind of the point. Using ProRes is pretty niche, especially on a phone. It gives you better resolution. And I don't mean resolution like 4K, I mean resolving image detail. You can just see like blades of grass or bark on a tree or whatever better. It doesn't get smudgy or fall apart. And in particular, when you're shooting in low light, because that is one thing that smartphones, even now, still don't do great at. Low light shooting, although the iPhone has made big improvements. I'm talking about video. There's night mode for photography. That's a different animal. And so shooting ProRes in those situations really makes a big difference, especially from a technical perspective. If you're just glancing at it, you may not notice the difference. But it also makes your workflow easier in post, because then you're editing ProRes, which any editing machine, even 10 years old, can edit ProRes video. HEVC, H.265, even though the file sizes are much smaller, computers struggle, okay? Now, of course, there are negatives. The file sizes are huge, and it's hard to get it off your phone to the computer. I use AirDrop, and it can be slow. There's no question. That's why I hope the iPhone 14 will include USB-C or maybe Thunderbolt. We don't know. Seems like since they added ProRes, they would do something like that. And so we'll wait and see on that. But having ProRes, again, in the palm of my hand is huge. And I really, really like it. And that's why it's my number 2 favorite mobile video tech of 2021. So what is my number 1? This one might surprise a few of you. It is the iPhone 13 Pro. It's not the phone itself, although that obviously encompasses these top 2 choices of mine. But it's a function of the phone, and that is cinematic mode. Now, why I say that's a surprise is because cinematic mode for a lot of people is not professional, and I get it. It doesn't cut out things perfectly. We all knew that going in. I think it will get better over time. Who knows? It could be amazing over time. Right now, though, first-gen product, it's good. And in some cases, it's great. I've actually been using it a lot in my videos recently. No one has noticed it. In other words, no one has pointed out, hey, that looks like crappy cinematic mode stuff. It is an easy way to get shallow depth of field in your footage, especially shooting B-roll, like product B-roll, where you have smooth edges. But the point is, it works great. And if you don't have a mirrorless camera or a DSLR or a cinema camera with you, or you don't want to pull it out, grabbing a quick B-roll shot with that is really, really cool. And it's kind of changed, again, how I use my smartphone, my iPhone, in my more professional productions. I think it's great. Now, there are some tips and tricks to using it. I've made a video about that, and I'm going to do more in the new year as well. The biggest one is you want to make sure you shoot with a smaller aperture. The larger apertures, like an f2, it starts looking pretty fake, and it also doesn't cut it out as well. A larger aperture, it does a better cutout, and it just looks more realistic, like an f8, even an f16. And of course, the big thing is you can change the focus in post, not only on your phone, but now in Final Cut Pro and in iMovie. And so it's just really cool technology. It's the best by far. It's better than ProTake. It's better than Focus Live. I did a comparison video again about those apps. If you don't have an iPhone 13, you haven't been able to try it yet, I'm assuming will be on the next variations of iPhones continue into the future. And again, it's only going to get better. Would I go out and shoot a movie on it right now? No. For me, it's worked out really great for, again, product B-roll on my iPhone channel, or just any kind of B-roll. And the only other thing is they've added some sort of magic to it to where it does, I need to do a test, but it does do better in low light shooting in cinematic mode. I haven't compared it yet to the regular video in the iPhone, but in my anecdotal experience, it does do better in low light. So again, they're adding some sort of fairy dust and unicorns in there that I don't know what it is, but it works. The only biggest negative to cinematic mode is you can't lock the white balance, and it really has messed up several of my shots. If you're shooting in an evenly lit area, it's no big deal. But if you're shooting in an area that has shadows and different color temperatures and you move the camera around, it will shift, and that's not good. I'm really hoping they can do an iOS update soon where you can lock the white balance, because you can do that in the normal camera. That's why I don't understand why you can't do it in cinematic mode. But nonetheless, again, first gen product, iPhone 13, and again, that's on the iPhone 13, by the way, not just the Pro. It's super cool, and it's my #1 favorite mobile filmmaking tech of 2021. Now, I do have a few honorable mentions. One of them is the Insta360 X2. I really like that camera. It is a B-roll beast, and I did a video about that. It's so cool to be able to shoot a shot in 360 and then in post choose whatever angle you want. I really like that camera, and that has made my life a lot easier too. The other one is a device called the MicMe Pocket, and I don't use it a lot, but it is a very cool audio recording device that you can use as a field recorder, or you can use their app, and it basically turns your phone into a wireless mic. It's a really interesting device. Again, I don't use it a ton, but I do like it. And I think it could be really valuable, especially in mobile video and mobile journalism. Really interesting product, the MicMe Pocket. That's an honorable mention. Now, one more for LumaFusion and the iPad. Of course, it works on your iPhone too. And that is they added stabilization. That's huge. They've been missing that for a while. And you can now edit and import ProRes. And so those features, again, are making me edit more and use my iPad more or my iPhone more. As a matter of fact, you can shoot ProRes on your iPhone and then edit on your iPhone in LumaFusion and not have to worry about importing footage onto your computer or to another device. And so that does make it pretty cool. So again, LumaFusion is advancing quickly. And if they'll just add scopes, which I've heard is coming in the near future, it'll be a really very, very professional and awesome editing tool on your iPad. And then the last one I wanted to sneak in here, and this just was released like yesterday, I think. FILMMAKING Pro added cinematic stabilization to their app. There's two variations of it. There's regular cinematic, and then there's cinematic plus. And I believe this comes from the way the native app does stabilization, which has always been better than third-party apps. And so it's good. It's really nice. Will it eliminate a gimbal? I don't know. Maybe. I know one thing it'll do when you're shooting handheld and you're up close to something with a phone, you get these little micro bumps, and you can just see it. And it's a giveaway that you're shooting on a phone. Because a bigger camera that has more weight, you don't traditionally get that, especially using stabilization. With this now, you can get rock steady, almost tripod looking shots using it. Good stuff to round out 2021 from FILMMAKING Pro. All right, guys, well, I hope you liked my favorite tech of 2021. Thank you very much for supporting this podcast, supporting this YouTube channel, and my main YouTube channel, iPhoneographers. Really appreciate it. 2021 was a good year, and so I hope 2022 will be even better. And I've got some ideas for this podcast. I've mentioned them in past episodes and I want to implement. And I'm going to be making some changes to both my YouTube channels as well. Not content-wise, just some approach and how I'm working on the videos, how I'm presenting the videos, and some of the subjects I'm actually going to cover. And so I'm excited about that. So Happy New Year. Again, thanks for listening. I'm Blake Calhoun, and this has been another episode of Almost Professional. And I look forward to talking to you in the next episode.